In the spirit of Halloween, I've got a story for you where the world of politics collides with the world of witchcraft, wizardry, and the occult. And this story stems from the confirmation process of now Justice Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. And no, I'm not making this up. So, a coven of witches based in Brooklyn, New York, recently announced that they'd be putting a curse on Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And surprisingly, this story has actually gained a lot of coverage nationally, including on Fox News.
A coven of self-described witches in New York is planning a rally next week to put a hex on Justice Kavanaugh. You can buy a ticket to attend this hexing ceremony for $10. A quarter of that goes to Planned Parenthood to help them continue to fund their human sacrifice rituals.
Now, that's just one example, but this has also been covered on CBS, RT, among other news outlets. And the witch who's leading the cause actually appeared on Fox News because, I mean, why wouldn't he? And he explained in great detail specifically what their aim is and how they're going to curse Brett Kavanaugh.
A coven of witches is gathering in Brooklyn as we speak to place a hex on Justice Kavanaugh in hopes that evil will come his way. Earlier, I spoke with Dakota Bracciale, who is the leader of this occult group. All right, so Dakota, you're a witch.
Yeah.
And you are going to use witchcraft against Justice Kavanaugh.
Yep.
What is the ritual that you are undertaking?
Well, like traditionally in witchcraft, we don't share, most people don't share the exact particulars of the ritual.
Can you give me a hint?
Well, there will be effigies, photos, graveyard dirt, coffin nails, open flames, the whole bit.
Whoa. So will an effigy of Kavanaugh be burned by the witches?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a picture of Kavanaugh will be burned?
Yes.
What will you be doing with the graveyard dirt?
So that goes in a container spell, which is basically when you take a jar, fill it with ingredients, seal it, and then burn candles on it. And it's like a continuing spell that you can then re-up on anytime.
Is there a cauldron involved?
Yeah, that's where the fire will be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And has these things worked in the past, these hexes?
Yeah, we feel like they have.
How have you proven that they've worked? And who else have you hexed?
Well, we hexed Trump last summer. We did 3 cumulative rituals. So there was one in June, one in July, one in August. And since then, a lot has come out. I mean, the hex... So a lot of people take it as like hexing is to like make that person die or like do something horrible to them. But it all really depends specifically on like what you're trying to do, right? And that's all in the wording and all in the intention. For us, it's about exposing these people because we believe that they are fundamentally dishonest and fundamentally unethical. And so we want that to be exposed.
So that was interesting. And, you know, that guy is not necessarily what I think of when witch comes to mind, but, you know, that's cool. And part of me thinks that he's trolling, but there's also a video that's like an hour long of him actually conducting a curse on Brett Kavanaugh, so maybe he is authentic. I don't know. This story is very, very interesting to me, so I do want to get to what he said here and the response to this, which is probably my favorite part. So, when he was describing the ritual itself, he just kind of described it in a matter-of-fact way. So Waters said, so Dakota, you're a witch, and you're going to use witchcraft against Justice Kavanaugh. And the response was, yep, that's what we are precisely going to be doing. We'll be cursing him. I mean, it was funny because this is something that is... it's odd, right? So to see it discussed in mainstream media in such a flippant way is really, I found it interesting and certainly entertaining to say the least. But regardless of how serious you might take this, there is a portion of conservatives who are genuinely concerned about this coven's attempt to curse Brett Kavanaugh. Now, you don't have to look far to find examples. If you just go to the comment section of that video posted on Fox News, you see one individual states, I pray that all the hexes him and his witch buddies cast shall be canceled in Jesus' name, and and may they find Jesus and true happiness. That's really nice. Another one says, may Jesus Christ open his eyes to the truth and may God have mercy on his soul. And then another one says, this guy and this guy and those this guy and those like him need Jesus Christ more than anything. It honestly does not take much to send the right into just full-on panic. Now, the story escalated a little bit when a Catholic exorcist decided to jump into the mix. And as Carol Caruvilla of HuffPost reports, Catholic exorcist prays for Brett Kavanaugh in response to witches' planned hex, and explains the Reverend Gary Thomas is a Vatican-educated exorcist who is currently authorized by the Bishop of San Jose to perform exorcisms. In Catholicism, this complex set of rites and prayers is used only by specifically trained priests to battle with perceived demonic forces. For Thomas, the news that dozens of witches would assemble at an occult bookstore in Brooklyn to target Kavanaugh is no joke. The priest said he's witnessed people who weren't in a state of grace experience real physical and spiritual harm as a result of curses. So to kind of recap the story thus far, we have witches, a coven of witches, basically come together to formulate this hex that they will put on Brett Kavanaugh, and then in response we see a Catholic exorcist try to counter that by praying and basically doing what he can to ameliorate the worst effects of said curse. So in essence, after reading this story and gathering as much information as I possibly can on this, the state of American politics in 2018 can essentially be summarized with the following clip from South Park.
Oh, goodness, what's going on? Stand back, Mother. We're having a telekinetic battle of men.
I've been waiting so long to use that clip, and finally I have the literal perfect segment to use that clip in. So, look, laugh all you want at the situation. You can laugh at these witches, but in all honesty, it seems as if this coven of witches based out of Brooklyn is doing more than Chuck Schumer and some Democrats to resist Donald Trump and Brett Kavanaugh. Because, I mean, think about this. Chuck Schumer, when you have someone as problematic as Brett Kavanaugh, who is likely going to be confirmed to the Supreme Court, you have a good legal and policy argument against him, and then you have this window of opportunity where he proves that he's a liar after these charges of, or these allegations of sexual misconduct come out. You have another window of opportunity to really act and show to everyone that this guy proved that he's a liar. He is a perjurer. He contradicted himself. He stated lies. But, I mean, he didn't capitalize on this situation. And even if he did, capitalize on this to the fullest extent, I'm not saying that it's a guarantee that Chuck Schumer could have prevented him from getting through, because, I mean, the numbers just weren't on their side. But with that being said, everyone's doing their part, to help with the cause, including the witches. So shout out to the witches. If this is something that makes them happy, then I absolutely do not begrudge them, for doing this. If being a witch makes them happy and partaking in this makes them happy. And shout out to, anyone else who is into unorthodox hobbies, so long as it doesn't hurt anyone. I don't have any problems with it. So yeah, this story was absolutely fascinating to me, and I couldn't not talk about it. One, given that I had that clip that I was itching to use, and two, seeing that it's the perfect season to talk about that. Halloween is coming up very soon, so how could I not talk about this on the Humanist Report podcast?
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.